And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and this is going to be a free-to-play guide on the Rancor. Now, I am going to show a team, and I'm going to give some variants. So when you see this team and you see Grand Admiral Thrawn and you go, man, he's not free-to-play friendly, I'll give you substitutions for Grand Admiral Thrawn. Although I will argue with you that Grand Admiral Thrawn is free-to-play, and he is relatively easy to acquire. You do need the Phoenix squad, obviously. We will go more into that here in a minute, but the other four are easy to get and are very, very viable even without Grand Admiral Thrawn. So I know you're going to see it with him, but take it with a grain of salt. So the first thing we need for free-to-play is we need characters that are easy to get, okay? The second thing we need is we need characters that are naturally faster. If they're naturally faster, it eases the burden of you having to put so much speed on your character. And so, of course, you want to have the fastest characters in the game that can give you the most usability in this particular raid. And third, you want the most efficient. You want the characters that are going to bring the most usability into this raid. You're going to need turn meter reduction to prevent the Rancor from going and taking a turn, because when he takes a turn, he devastates your team. You need tenacity down as a free-to-play, and this is why you're not going to be able to apply these detrimental effects, such as turn meter, without high potency. And tenacity down will ensure, even with low potency, you can apply those negative debuffs and or turn meter reduction. Now, why this is important is it eases the burden on having to mod a bunch of potency. We're going to go over all of my characters, and you're going to see how low my potency is on all my characters and how efficient this still is as a team. And so you're going to realize why tenacity down is a critical key for free to play. Also, with the faster characters, again, like I said, it lessens the speed burden. It allows you to have, 30 to 50 additional speed on your characters and still be able to participate and solo. And this team is also going to have a suggestion of speed down. It's really important for phase 1, 2, and 3 that you slow the piggies or the Rancor down, but in phase 4, it's absolutely necessary. And the reason for that with free to play that you need speed down is he gets a bonus 25 speed in phase 4, and you have to nullify that bonus 25% speed. You have to, or you will not make it through phase 4. And so that is where characters like a substitution Captain Phasma, you could use her, or Grand Admiral Thrawn, or Fives, someone that you sub in to that 5th slot that has to have speed down. Now, one of the characters, Darth Vader, has a natural speed down capability. The only problem is he immediately removes it once he throws his saber. Lastly, this team does bring to the table defense down, which allows you to get more damage quicker because you're putting his defense down, which allows more of your damage to get through unabated. Now let's go see the team and see why I selected these 5 for free to play. Number 1, and most importantly, is Darth Vader. He is a Sith and an Empire, and he will be your leader. You do have to Zeta his abilities, and to get to Zeta abilities, you probably have played the game 6 to 8 months minimum. This team for soloing is not for the person who started 2 months ago. This is for the free-to-play who's been free-to-play for 6 to 8 months and has been struggling to find the right combination of characters, but has these characters or has the capability now of accessing these characters. Darth Vader is completely free to play. You get him through achievements, and you also get him through shipments. You can get him there, and that way you can get him to 7 stars. You can get him from 0 to 7 stars in about 3 to 4 months if you're focused on him. So very free to play friendly, and he is one of the easiest characters in the game to gear. So that's awesome. And for this solo, you only need to get him to gear 9.5 or 10. Now, the higher he goes, the more damage he does, and so the faster you get through Rancor will be determined by the gear level that he is, but he is your number 1 main damage dealer. He'll do as much damage as pretty much everybody else combined, so he's necessary. He brings 3 things to the table that you have to have. He brings that all Sith and Empire allies are going to reduce 20% turn meter 50% of the time. So only 50% of the time will this occur, and 20% is not a ton. It's enough to take the edge off and allow for your characters to keep going, but you have to have more than just Empire and Sith. People really build Empire Sith Rancor Solo Team, and what happens is they do well, but the Rancor still gets to take turns because of his speed, and he sometimes resists turn meter reduction. And so because you're not taking enough away enough of the time, what happens is he gets to go too much. So with that, you definitely want to build with a couple other characters that are going to do significant turn meter reduction, such as Jyn Erso, Tebow, R2-D2, things like that. R2-D2 and Tebow is a great combo, although I will be talking about Bistan and Jyn Erso in this video because they are easy to acquire characters. Darth Vader will also apply the much needed speed down. He will get that speed down on his Force Crush. He'll deal physical damage and inflict that speed down and damage over 2 rounds. Second thing he brings to the table is the damage over time. They don't go away, which equates to him being able to do massive damage. Like I said, he'll be your #1 damage dealer. And on his leadership ability, because you've made him a leader, he will give you not only that turn meter reduction with Sith and Empire, but he also gives them 30% offense, allowing them to do 1/3 more damage than they traditionally would do. Now, the only downside to Darth Vader is his speed. He's the only slow character in this suggestion, but he's absolutely critical because he's the #1 damage dealer and he's the best lead for this solo team for free to play. I was able to get his speed up to about 194, but I only had his potency at 43%. That's right, 43%. That is parsley. It really should mean that when I try to apply his negative status effects, they don't go through. But alas, I have tenacity down, so I'm running my team just like a free-to-play would, and I'm putting tenacity down, which almost assuredly gives me the guarantee that my debuffs will apply. As you see in the video, the debuffs apply without any worry whatsoever because the TIE Fighter pilot puts that tenacity down. So I don't have to focus on potency as much. I just focused on speed. His speed's around 120 to start. I was able to get it up to about 190, so I had to put about 70 on him. He was the one that I had to spend the most time getting speed on. As a free-to-play, getting 60, 70 speed is pushing it. And so with this, it's giving you the freedom to be able to focus more on speed and less on potency because you have that, like I said, tenacity down. #2 in this team is going to be a second Empire character, and that is TIE Fighter Pilot. He is another critical component of this free-to-play team. He only needs to be around gear 9 or 10 to be effective in this solo raid. He is utilitarian. What I mean by that is you're going to use him for a specific purpose, and that is that he's going to put tenacity down, which is absolutely critical. You need the speed down and tenacity down, which Darth Vader and TIE Fighter Pilot bring. He is naturally fast at 170, which allows for you to not have to worry about speed as much. One single 30 speed arrow and you are at 200 speed, which is exactly where you need him, at or above for the whole team. And he's extremely high on potency naturally, so if you give him a potency cross and maybe a set of potencies, you will be able to get him into the 90s on potency, and that is more than sufficient to be able to apply that tenacity down that's needed so you don't have to focus on potency for the rest of the team. He's completely free to play. You can get him in the Cantina on 4B, which makes it lightning fast to acquire. You can get him in anywhere from 2 to 4 months, depending upon if you pay to do any refreshes. Pay meaning using your crystals you're earning. I'm not talking about spending money, just rather using the existing crystals you earn. If you do not refresh often and using your natural energy that you get, then it will take approximately 4 months to get him to 7-star. His gearing is average, but you only need him to get to gear 9 or 10 for him to be usable. And like I said, he's really fast. He's going to come in and he's going to bring 3 things, like I said. 1, tenacity down, which is absolutely critical for free to play. So your modding, it becomes easier. 2, he can apply buff immunity. Why that's important for the Rancor is it's 1 more debuff that you can apply to the Rancor. It's just 1 more debuff that allows Darth Vader to do more damage. Every debuff you can apply is going to be more damage converted with Darth Vader. And lastly, he also does extremely high damage. He's one of the highest Sith or Empire characters as far as damage dealing. So when you're bringing him in, he's going to get that extra 30% offense from Darth Vader lead. He's going to do turn meter reduction as well on any of his attacks, and he does a lot of damage. So he is a critical component of this. Now, the first two were Empire. I'm going to mash 2 Empire with 2 Rebel. That's right. Jyn Erso is going to be number 3 and who I recommend in having this team. The nice thing about Jyn Erso is you only have to get her to gear 8 or 9 for this to become efficient in this team. Again, she is utilitarian, meaning she's not there for the damage. She's actually one of the lower damage dealing characters in this lineup. She's there to remove 100% turn meter, and she can very easily do that. She's naturally fast at 163. A single speed arrow would get her to 193, which is close enough to the goal of 200. Remember, we want to get 200 as best as possible. I have her at 207, and her potency is a whopping 7%. You didn't hear that wrong. I did not say 70. 7%. So because of that, all you have to do is put crit chance on her. Now, I don't have her modded correctly in the video. If you're looking at that, that is not how I would have her. I actually recommend crit chance. I have her currently, her critical chance at 60%, but the more she crits, the more potency she gets. You do not need any Zetas for this team other than the Darth Vader lead, but if you look at her Fierce Determination, Jyn will gain 10% potency each time she scores a critical hit. So what happens is in phase 1, she does her attacks, and she'll slowly start to build her potency up. That's why I have her potency at 7%, because she'll build her own potency up well in excess of 100%. After the first phase, she'll very easily be over 100%, which means assuredly, pretty much 100% of the time she's removing 100% turn meter. Now, with that said, the RNG, or the random numbers generator, will foil your plans no matter what you're doing and no matter how perfect you're modded 15% of the time, which means that 85% of the time she'll remove 100% turn meter. Now, a lot of people have played with Jyn and say she doesn't remove 100% turn meter. She does. The problem is she does her damage, she does her turn meter reduction, then she does her damage, and after she applies the damage, then they gain some turn meter. Whereas if she would do the damage and then the turn meter reduction, it would show an empty turn meter bar. So unfortunately, she does remove 100% of the turn meter, but they get 10 to 15% back because she applies her damage after her turn meter reduction. I've asked them to change it back to the way it was, but alas, this is what I think they want it to be as. Because she's naturally fast, like I said, it's easy to gear her up and get her there. You only need her at gear 8 or 9, and she's going to bring a lot of things to the table. Now, the first thing is she's extremely free to play. You can get her in between 2 to 4 months. She shows up in guild currency shipments as well as ship shipments. So you've got multiple places you can pick her out of. And because she and Bistan are in the ship shipments and you might be getting them out and Darth Vader out, you might think, well, they're conflicting as far as farming, but they don't all drop on the exact same day, and they're not going to always drop same time. So you can farm multiple characters at one time. Now, each time, like I said, she crits, she's going to get plus 10% potency, which is excellent, and then she'll be able to remove turn meter. Now, with this turn meter reduction, the reason why I like her so much is she can remove that 100% turn meter every other turn. Every other turn. That is crazy. That's one of the best turn meter reducers. There's no need to be in stealth. There's no, blah, blah, blah. It's just every other turn she gets to do that. And when she does the turn meter reduction, she steals the turn meter from the opponent. So if the Rancor is about to go, she can steal his turn, use her basic, and she's back to being able to use her turn meter reduction immediately. And so as long as you're taking the Rancor's turn meter when it's near full, we're talking 70% or higher, she's going to essentially be able to just use this turn meter reduction over and over and over. So very excellent. Like I said, one of the best turn meter reducers in the game. Also, she has a very key critical component, which is being able to give another ally a turn. So this plays into effect in many different ways. When she gives them a turn, she gives them 100% turn meter and advantage for 2 turns. So now they're going to guaranteed crit. So if you want to, if you're near the end of a phase and you really want to finish it off, and you know Darth Vader's about to go, but he's a little slower, and you're trying to speed up that damage, you can pass him a turn, give him a guaranteed crit, and let him throw his Culling Blade to finish off that round. because maybe you don't have any turn meter reduction available to finish off the last 5 or 6%, but maybe you can toss the turn to him. So pretty cool. This passing the turn is critical, because if for some reason she's not staged to take turn meter away and he's at full, you could pass the turn to Bistan or to someone else that you have, and then he could use his turn meter reduction. So if she's not primed to be able to remove turn meter, she can pass the buck to someone who is primed and ready to remove turn meter. So that is why she is a critical component in this team. Now, I know a lot of people that don't use Bistan, but I do. I love Bistan. He's a rebel, and really there's this rebel synergy with Jyn Erso and him, and there's some really cool pieces to this puzzle that fall into place when you get Bistan. So Bistan's awesome. His speed is naturally higher than normal. I think it's like 145 or 143, and so you don't have to put as much speed into him to get him to the 200 goal, and if he's a little under 200, you'll be fine. I have his potency at around 65%, and the reason for that is he gains potency 10% for every other rebel and every other debuffed enemy. Well, in that he'll count Jyn Erso and he'll count the Rancor, and so you're going to get at least 20% potency buff. So if you have him at 65, he's now at 85% potency, which is about as high as you ever need his potency. And the deal with his potency is he removes turn meter equal to his potency. So if you get his turn meter up between 80 to 100%, what's going to happen is he's going to remove 80 to 100% turn meter when he does his turn meter reduction, which is awesome. You can get him just like Jyn Erso out of shipments, and so you can get him really pretty easy within 2 to 4 months, again, depending upon how fast those drops for his specific character. Now, something else, aside from the fact that he can apply turn meter reduction pretty much, you know, 100% of the time, he can take away 100%. You'll see in the video he does very well at turn meter reduction. He also has Blastum, his basic, which adds damage over time, which are the dots that you want on top of him to increase or speed up Darth Vader's Coaling Blades damage. So he's going to, even though he's a rebel, he works very well with this Empire synergy, because he's going to increase the amount of damage over times that are going over the Rancor, and that's going to give the benefit to Darth Vader, like I said, and his Coaling Blade. Of course, his Gunner's Tactics removes turn meter equal to his potency, so you do want to mod him with potency and speed, although you don't have to get crazy with potency, because like I said, he self boosts his own potency by getting 10% potency for each rebel ally and each debuffed enemy. Side note, when it says each rebel ally, it does include himself, so he will get 30% potency from him, Jyn, and the enemy. So he's going to get 30%. I have him at 65. That puts him at 95%, which is why in the video, when you see him shoot, he takes away pretty much all of the turn meter that's there. And the Rancor's never 100% full normally when you take away his turn meter, or you shouldn't allow it to get that high. And so this is going to look like 100% turn meter reduction because of how much he takes away for when you're shooting the Rancor. Now, lastly, the reason why Bistan is also amazing is this unique ability called Frenzy. Now, a lot of people undervalue this, and I want to talk about it for a second because it's absolutely amazing. You can use this. I suggest getting it up as soon as possible, and the reason for that is he's going to get Frenzy for 4 turns, and then instantly he gives the entire team 20% turn meter. Now, that's a turn meter boost. Anytime you can get a character giving your team a turn meter boost, it's giving you an advantage in this, especially when the game is turn meter reduction or increase. The second thing is what Frenzy actually does. Whenever any other ally, that's anybody, Empire, Rebels, it doesn't matter, when anybody uses a special ability, and by the way, they're all using special abilities a lot, he's going to get an extra turn every time they use a special ability. This is cool, and he gets to put additional damage over times over the Rancor's head just because everybody else is using specials. Now, this is also key, critical, because when Jyn Erso has her turn meter reduction, or anyone else has a turn meter reduction move, that's a special move, which they all are, when they go to do their turn meter reduction, if it fails, he gets another turn instantly before the Rancor smashes you, and as long as you haven't used his turn meter reduction, he'll get a shot at turn meter reduction. Now, the cool thing about random numbers generator, the RNG, is that it does from time to time screw your ability to reduce turn meter. However, it rarely does it twice in a row. So because of that, when your Jyn Erso takes away turn meter, if the RNG fails it, in the 15% chance that it will fail because it's hardwired in, he will get another turn and instantly be able to use his. I have rarely seen it fail both Bistan and Jyn Erso back to back. It can happen, but it's extremely rare. So this gives you this freedom to be able to utilize your turn meter reductions. And if your turn meter reduction fails on these specials, he gets another turn and is giving you a second opportunity to turn meter reduce before the Rancor takes his turn. It's like insurance for turn meter reduction. Frenzy's absolutely amazing, and like I said, it gives him the ability to put tons more damage over time over the Rancor's head, making it faster to get through the Rancor. Now in that 5th slot, you see I'm using Grand Admiral Thrawn, so I'm going to discuss Grand Admiral Thrawn and why I use him. However, I'm going to give you other free-to-play options if you decide that Grand Admiral Thrawn is too much for you to deal with. You do have to have all 5. You got to have 5 of the 6 Phoenix characters. Phoenix are good if you're new to the game and you're wondering, how do I get to this point, and you're setting goals. The Phoenix are not a bad squad. You can use them to get Emperor Palpatine. You can use them to get Thrawn. You can use them in Rebel events. You can use them on Light Side and Cantina. In the Galactic War, they work great. So they're not a bad set. And every one of those Phoenix characters are completely and utterly free to play, which means that it makes Thrawn free to play. It just takes time, because you got to get them, gear them, and then get Thrawn. So this team is designed for the person who has played 6 to 8 months and or is hyper-focused specifically on them. But again, if you don't want Thrawn in this slot, this 5th slot, I'll give you a couple other options. A couple other options are Tebow. He can do 100% turn meter reduction. Captain Phasma, who's my #1 suggestion. She can apply additional turn meter gain to your team and speed down, which is what Thrawn does. So I would recommend apples to apples, replacing utility for utility. If he's doing turn meter reduction and he's doing speed down, then I would recommend Captain Phasma to do the speed down. And then another one you could do is Darth Sidious. Now, Darth Sidious puts lots of different damage over times, expose, and he's Sith, so he's going to do turn meter reduction. However, he's a beast to gear, so he's a little bit squishy. If the Rancor does end up getting a turn, he very well might crush your Darth Sidious. Let's go into Grand Admiral Thrawn, though. Now that you know you could do Tebow and Captain Phasma, let's go ahead and tell you why I like him. First, Grand Admiral Thrawn is naturally fast. It does not take much to get him over 200 speed, and I only have his potency at 26. He doesn't need potency for what he does, okay? You only need him because he's a utility character to gear 8 or 9. You do not have to max him out. Again, 3 of these characters only need to be at gear 8 or 9. That's Bistan, Jyn Erso, and Thrawn. The other 2, TIE Fighter Pilot and Darth Vader, you really want to get them to gear 9 or 10, so that way you can really increase their damage output, because they're going to be the ones doing the majority of the damage. Thrawn is going to be able to do an ability called Fracture, which is very cool. It does 2 different things. It does one thing for raids, and it does another thing for characters, so you've got to know what you're doing, but essentially it's going to do damage 4 times. Now, because he's Empire, he does turn meter reduction 50% of the time, 20%. So if it triggers 4 times, potentially, he can remove up to 80% turn meter with this move. Now, that is almost as good as Bistan's ability and Jyn Erso's ability. So pretty cool. And he's going to remove it's going to remove also turn meter 50%. So combine that with his hits, which is triggering his Empire ability, and he can remove more turn meter than anybody else potentially by removing 100% between the Empire turn meter reduction 50% of the time, 20% from Darth Vader, and his own 50% turn meter reduction. Also, when Fracture is on there, for raid bosses, negative speed of 50%, they can't gain buffs, and the 30% counter chance is down. Now, for the Rancor, you won't worry about the buffs or counter chance, but negative 50% speed, this is the best speed down in the game, and where it becomes critical to have him to really make this efficient is in Phase 4, where the Rancor gets a 25% speed bonus. This keeps him under wraps to be able to still solo it. So Fracture is very cool. It's the best speed down in the game. Lastly, on Fracture, I just wanted to mention his unique ability also allows for any Empire characters that use their abilities are going to reduce 15% turn meter on Thrawn and the enemy, which means it is going to reduce turn meter, creating the two Empire characters, Darth Vader and TIE Fighter Pilot, to be able to do additional turn meter reduction because they're Empire, and when they use their abilities, it's going to reduce the turn meter with this Fracture. Now, Grand Admiral's command is awesome because it's just like Jyn Erso, kind of like Jyn Erso's ability to give an ally a turn. Now, she gives an ally a turn and advantage for 2 turns. She basically just gives them 100% turn meter. His is swapping turn meter. So basically, he gives them his turn, which will be at 100% turn meter when he goes. And he's a debuffer. So if the Rancor happens to go a couple of times, like you'll see in this video, and he does smash a couple people and put some debuffs, he'll be able to cleanse these debuffs and give them 40% protection back. That's the best protection regeneration in the game. So if you want your team to survive till the end, really Grand Admiral Thrawn is absolutely amazing because he'll be able to apply 40% turn meter increase both to himself and to someone else. So with the other characters you have that maybe at gear 8 or gear 9, like Jyn Erso, Biston, and himself, he's going to keep them around a lot longer so they don't die as easily with that protection regeneration. Also, what's really cool with the Grand Admiral's command and Jyn Erso is he removes turn meter and Jyn Erso remove turn meter. He can speed down with Fracture and she can take turn meter away, and she can give Thrawn a turn. If she's not ready to do turn meter reduction and the Rancor's about to go, she can pass a turn to Grand Admiral Thrawn, who can then Fracture. And if she's ready to take away turn meter, as you'll see in this video often, and he's not ready, he'll be able to do passing the turn to her and let her do the turn meter reduction. So because these two characters have turn passing where they can give their turn away or give another character a turn, what happens is it allows you to be more strategic and guarantee that whoever has the turn meter reduction capability at the time gets the turn. For example, maybe Biston's ready to go and take turn meter away and Jyn isn't, so Jyn could pass it to Bistan. Or maybe we know that Jyn Erso's ready and Grand Admiral Thrawn can pass his turn to her and she can take the turn meter away. You'll notice in the video I do this very often because there are times when the character I want to use isn't available, but with 2 out of 5 characters passing turns, it's almost guaranteed I'll have a character available and ready to go when I need them. And lastly, for Grand Admiral Thrawn, he allows for raid bosses to do special damage and inflict defense down. Now, what defense down is really cool is, one, it's another debuff. So it's just one more debuff to increase the Culling Blade's damage when he throws Culling Blade for Darth Vader. And also, this cannot be resisted, so it's guaranteed to be a debuff that does apply. And when defense is down, you're going to apply significantly more damage to the raid boss, so it's going to speed up the overall progression of this raid. So this is the team that I feel is easy to get. What I mean by that is it only takes approximately 4 months or so to get these characters, with the exception of Thrawn, which takes 6 to 8 months. But once you build these characters and once you've played for a period of time and you have these set as goals, you will have an amazing team to get the Rancor into solo. Now, why is this important? Why would you want to even solo the Rancor? Well, in today's day and age, the only way to get the best rewards is to be able to solo, because everyone who solos goes to the top. And then of those individuals who go to the top, the game randomizes who gets first, second, or third, and so on and so forth. If you really want to gear your characters up, the Rancor is the easiest raid to focus on to get raid gear for a free-to-play. Free-to-play characters, free-to-play individuals are trying to get through gear 9, 10, and so on and so forth, 8, 9, and 10. That gear for 8, 9, and 10 comes out of the Rancor, and so you really want to make sure you place well in the Rancor. And in addition, it brings new life into the game when you can play and be successful with tackling a Rancor such as this. Very fun to play. I hope this has helped show that these are relatively easy to get. It creates a faster team that takes the burden off of your speed mod need, so you can just use some speed arrows, and less potency burden because of the tenacity down. And hopefully this will help you with, I know modding is always the hardest part of these teams. It gives you a fast team that requires little potency. So make sure that you watch till the end. This is a super awesome video. I'm glad I was able to put this up and showcase this. What are your thoughts about the team? Are there strengths or weaknesses? Are there things that I told you about that you didn't think about? Or maybe things I didn't even mention that I should have? Leave them in the comments down below. As always, keep your gaming on, Warrior. out.